Hi, welcome back to the Victoria's Wool podcast. I'm Victoria. I'm a hand knit pattern designer living on an island in the Puget Sound of Washington State. And today is November 13th. Tomorrow, my Fjord Shawl pattern comes out. And so this is a quick video, a rundown of this pattern. It's available on Ravelry and at victoriaswool.com. It's called the Fjord Shawl. The name came from the color of this yarn. This is Lettlopi from Istex, which is an Icelandic kind of Aran worsted weight wool. And they called this blue Fjord. The construction is such that you cast on all the stitches, the maximum amount of stitches at once. So you take a really long circular needle. I always recommend like a 40 to a 60, depending on what you got to work with. And you cast on all these stitches. I also recommend that you use locking stitch markers, the ones you can take off, to place every 20 stitches, every 50 stitches, however you want to do it when you're casting on, so you don't have to count over and over and over if you are somebody who's really bad at counting like I used to be. It went away. I don't know what happened. It went away. I'm not so bad at it anymore, but I used to have a really hard time counting accurately. So now I count by twos. And when I cast on this quantity of stitches, I definitely use markers, and I did for this sample. You cast on all the stitches and then you start decreasing on the sides. You don't decrease in the center, just on the sides. And it gives you this really long wingspan. I like a 6 foot, this is a little bit bigger than that, a 6 foot wingspan, so that you can really wrap it around your neck at least once and have like the tails really have weight to them and be forward, so they're not falling off of you all the time. It drives me crazy. I want to be able to like use my arms and work, and I want to be able to garden if I'm going to garden, wash the dishes, if I'm going to fully like use the rotations of my arms without having my shawl or scarf fall off and get in the way. I put a beautiful cable right in the center. I love cables on shawls. I just feel like they make it fun and juicy. I love a juicy cable. The stitch on the sides is all garter. I wanted something really comforting and soothing when I was casting this on. I had a much more, not an intensive stitch pattern planned, but something where you had to really keep track of what you were doing. And I was just so not into that at that moment. I was like, I don't want to cast this design on because I think it'll be too much for my brain. And so I switched to garter. It was a very good decision. I was also going to make it in a really boring gray, and I need color. So this was a pattern that truly helped me just settle back in and enjoy knitting. And I had been working on a lot of things and really needed that. You can tie it, you could leave it this way. You can tie it underneath, get those tails out of the way. Or you can tie it, which is something I've started doing is there it is. I started tying it on top. Because actually I think I noticed that men do that with their scarves. Or I saw a man do it with a shawl, I think, too. And I was like, you know what? That looks cute. I want to do that. Right on top. Keep my hair out of the way. And then I usually come in and pull up the middle a little bit for it to be extra cozy. I do also wear it over the back. My shoulders when I'm in the house a lot, and my shoulders are cold, my neck's a little cold. It's perfect. Sitting on the couch, knitting, working at the computer. It's just a little extra, and you can really roll it up too if you need a little bit more. Yeah. This yarn is, like I said, from Iceland. It consists of both shorter fibers, which are softer, and longer fibers, which are more rustic, more durable. So it's a very affordable yarn. Most balls of Lopi in the US, of Lettlopi, this type, run like $5 to $7, $8 a ball, which is really affordable. It's also cheaper to buy directly from Iceland or one of the Icelandic websites that retail. Lopi, you can get it for like $2 or $3, especially if you buy, sometimes you buy a lot. I buy multiple sweater quantities of Lopi when I buy from Iceland, and I have quite a stash of Iceland, like kind of like end of the world, I'll be okay stash of Lopi. It's just delightful, and I'm going to cast on another one of these in the next day or so, and I have lovely yarns to choose from. It is rustic. Some people do find it itchy. It is not, to me, everybody's experiences are different. Some people are allergic to lanolin. Some people are allergic to mohair. Everyone's got different sensitivities, different tolerances. I find the longer I wear Lopi, the more tolerant I am of it. I can wear it right up against the skin if I'm cold, and I do spend time in the winter outside multiple hours every week when I work at farmers market. So I've really adapted to needing very warm sweaters, and that it don't bother me when it's just not itchy when it's cold. I don't even notice it's happening. The longer you wear Lopi, I also feel like the more the fibers felt together, they stick out less and they stick to each other more. So I find that is really helpful. I have a cardigan that I've worn a lot that's made out of Lopi, and that thing is so soft. It's amazing. It was knit at a very open gauge, so there was lots of space for the fibers to come together and felt, and so it's one of my favorites. It's very soft. Yeah, so you can give Lopi a try. Maybe you're already a fan, you're excited to knit this in Lopi, maybe you've never used Lopi before. You know, hold it up against your face. It's not going to be merino, but give it a shot. If it's totally a no for you, this shawl would look beautiful in a merino, a rambouillet, a superwash yarn. There's lots of options. I knit it at a really open gauge too, so there is lots of space. It's a yarn with less elasticity in it than a rambouillet and a merino, for example, so it can be harder on the hands, a little moving towards the twiney type of yarn. If there was like a spectrum of softness or durability, more yarns that are a little bit more string-like, that are harder on the hands because they don't have as much bounce, they don't stretch, they don't have as much give, so it is harder on the hands. And I do take care of myself really well when I knit with this yarn. I don't necessarily knit for a really long time. I don't knit for too many projects at the same time, and I try not to knit it at a really tight gauge where you're like really having to force. I just knit a sweater with 2 skeins of Pluto Lopi held together, and it was hard on my hands, so it took me a little while longer than it normally would. But I love this yarn. I love the way it looks. It's very, I keep trying to come up with words about the texture. It's very natural. It's very woolly. When I see it at a distance, like, it draws me to it. I've been thinking about, like, how do I describe this? Like, it's simplistic. It's very textural, which is not very it's funny. Textural is not a really descriptive word, but it's descriptive, but it's not subtle enough. I want it to be more. I want to describe it more fully about how I feel about it. But yeah, it's just really, really, really lovely. It's become my favorite. And I want to incorporate it in all the things that I make, not just sweaters, but shawls too. So the pattern Fjord Shawl is available on Ravelry and victoriaswool.com as of tomorrow. So by the time you see this, it will be up. I hope that you love it. See you later.